Well, hello and a wonderful welcome to today's program, The Interview. I'm Tula, and today we're going to be looking at something that has literally brought shockwaves to the entire world. You've heard it time and time again spoken about in the news, and you know, when you look at this particular area, it is something that you cannot help but really be moved by and really want to do something. But before I carry on, I just want to show you a little clip that will bring everything into perspective. So take a look at this and I'll see you in a bit. Yes, and there it is. Today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, is about child trafficking. As I said before in my earlier introduction, it is something that you and I have certainly heard, read, and seen something about, but how much of it do we really know? I'm glad that today we have got someone who works very closely with this particular area. As heart-wrenching as it is, she's in it every single day of her life and has come into contact with quite a few of the children. But just before I carry on, if we just look at Psalms 127, verse 3, the Bible tells us that, lo, the children are an heritage from the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. So these children that we're going to be talking about, just bear in mind that they are the Lord's. He's chosen them and loves them very much. But alas, without taking any more time, I just want to introduce my guest today. Her name is Lana, and she runs an amazing organization called Life Impact International that looks after children that have been trafficked or about to be trafficked. Lana, welcome to the interview.
Thank you, Talia.
Thank you so much for joining me today. When I heard about that I'll be interviewing you and just looking at everything that concerns child trafficking, again, like, as I said in my introduction, it's something that we hear about, know about, have read about it, but how much of it do we really know? And I think this is just the perfect time, really, just for you to introduce yourself and a little bit about your organization, just for our viewers to get to know what you do.
Okay. We're Life Impact International. I've been on the Thai-Burma border area for 13 years now, working with at-risk children. So we mainly fight against child prostitution, child trafficking, any kind of child exploitation happening right now in Southeast Asia.
Wow. And so all across these areas, do you literally go to each and every one of them yourself?
Yes, I live there, and so this is our homes. These are our works. We have 4 homes with 117 children in them right now, and so we're basically juggling back and forth and working with our nationals, training our nationals. So we're hands-on, very much hands-on.
Wow. How did you actually start this organization?
Everyone asks me that, and so about 14 years ago, I was in Bible school and I was praying and just seeking the Lord and just saying, okay, what do you have for me to do? And what we do kind of comes out of a personal vendetta to protect children, at-risk children, to protect children from exploitation. And the Lord gave me Psalm 127:3, and he spoke to me and said, as arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. They will not be ashamed. They will subdue, conquer the enemy at the gate. And so what he told me is, in these dark nations, and what I said was, Lord, Lord, I'm not a babysitter, I'm an evangelist. I want to win. I didn't hear the gospel until I was 19 years old, and I was already had a wild life, crazy life. And so when I heard the gospel, I thought, I want to tell as many people about Jesus as possible. So that was another personal vendetta of mine. And so when the Lord told me this about homes and safe homes and rescue homes and children's homes, I said, I'm an evangelist. I don't want to babysit 20 children and then Jesus come back and me say, here's my 20. You know, I said, I want to win thousands, millions to you. And he spoke to me and he said, no, these children's homes are not going to be like orphanages. These safe homes aren't going to be like anything you've ever known before. He said, they're going to be little armies. And what you're going to do is you're going to go into the dark nations and these nations that don't know me, where these evils are happening against children. And he said, and you're going to go in and you're going to rescue them and you're going to raise up a generation that knows me. And then those children, they will change. You're going to raise up a generation and that generation will change their nation.
Wow.
And they'll stop the enemy at the gate. They'll stop the evils in their generation and in their nation at the root. And so that was the promise that the Lord had given me in that. And I had originally thought that I'd go to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And actually now we're going to be starting homes in Brazil. But at that time, I kind of took a detour. 2 months in Thailand turned into a year and a half turned into 13 years later. So,
wow. And 13 years later, this is where you are. Now, just to bring into perspective, and just really for you, our lovely viewers, to see the magnitude of the work that Lana really has on her hands, I just want to bring some statistics up for you, just so that you can see what kind of numbers that we're dealing with. If you look on your screen over there, we've got 8.4 million children are trapped in slavery, trafficking, debt bondage, prostitution, pornography, and other illicit activities. That's 8.4. And then 800,000 of Thailand's prostitutes are under the age of 16. 2 children per minute are trafficked for sexual exploitation. Now, those are really big numbers. And if you put it into perspective, you know, we're just talking about children and children alone at this moment in time with those statistics.
Yeah.
Now, there's another video that I just really want to show in terms, you obviously spoke about how you are in Thailand, and you beautifully explained about what actually goes on. So we're just going to go to that now, and then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit more. So if we show that, that would be wonderful.
This is no man's land in between Thailand and Burma, and basically you could get anything here. You could get any kind of drug, children, whatever you want. It's all right here. We live on the Thai side of the Thailand-Burma border. It is one of the most notorious borders. You have everything from drug trafficking, child trafficking, human trafficking. You also have a lot of baby trafficking. Behind me in these kind of shacks above the water, one of them's a brothel for children. And the way we came across it, we were walking back and forth over here, and we zoomed in on our camera, and we saw a little 10-year-old girl getting her hair brushed by about a 19-year-old guy. And there was about 5 other girls sitting there waiting to get their hair brushed, 10 to 12 years old. And I just saw it from there. We zoomed in, and we couldn't believe it. But there's nothing you can do from this side. Can't run. I mean, the government's right there. There's soldiers right there.
It's just absolutely insane is these little girls, their lives are a life of hell on earth. I mean, their fate is sealed. We're sitting here right across the river, and there's absolutely nothing we could do to be able to change their fate.
And a prostitute that worked this border right here, she pointed to me before she died, and she said, that's a brothel. She told me there's girls chained up in there. There's no limit to the age. It's just a normal thing here on the border.
And that's 30 to 40 children trafficked. I mean, those numbers for me are absolutely astonishing. Whilst you hear about trafficking, when you really see the figures that are attached to it, it really drives it home as to what these children are going through. What are the age ranges from your experience that you've dealt with?
It really depends. I mean, I have a 3-year-old girl that was taking care of her 2-month-old sister, and they were on the market for $160.
Wow.
So, I mean, you can have babies. We know babies go left and right for $18 on our border. And so, we have a good number of rescued babies. So babies all the way up to any age, actually. It depends on if it's labor. It depends on if it's just a domestic, you want a baby. I mean, children in Asia, in our part of the world, are more like a commodity rather than an asset.
Wow. Isn't it something else?
It is.
I mean, you almost feel like you're going back instead of going into the future. It's like you're going back into the past, isn't it? With the whole, all of this really. It's very hard to fathom. And I hope, as you listen to this, viewers, you just allow the Lord to just minister to you and just really show you what he wants to show you to see through this conversation between Lana and I and everything that's coming through. Now, how did you first start with a rescue mission?
So when we went, actually, we started with a prevention home. And so I landed, I had 52 children, a cook, a house mother, and an interpreter that spoke 20% English. And so we started with prevention homes. And basically we went to the pools of where the traffickers were and got the children before the bad guys did. So in the slums, in wherever the areas where the children were more at risk and where the traffickers were going, we got there before the bad guys. And then, so that's how we started. We started with prevention.
Right.
And then while doing prevention, we came across this case. It was this girl started our whole rescue homes, and she was 8 years old. And one day we were just in a cafe on our border, and everything's outdoors. There's nothing. I mean, it's just a border town, and very dirty, just very rugged. And so we were outdoors, and these street kids came up to me, and they were begging, and they said, "5 baht," and 5 baht's like 10 cents. And so they said, if I buy it, and I said, I'm not going to give you any money, but I'll buy you food. And this little girl said, come with me. And I just heard God say, go with her.
Wow.
And so I said, okay. And I didn't know where we were going. And so all these street kids jumped in the back of my truck, and they're directing me. And I had like a little street kid parade going on in the town. And we pull up to this house, and it was just this blown out building. It was, I'd never seen anything like that. At that point, I'd already lived in Thailand years, and I'd never seen anything. It was an abandoned squatter house. No walls. I mean, it's 2-story, no walls, rice bags hanging for walls. It was just the most horrific. Animals everywhere. I mean, it smelled like human feces. It was just horrible. All in this whole area. And later I found out that even the police won't go there. All the drug dealers are there. I mean, it's just a major human trafficking hub, drug trafficking hub. It's one of the worst areas on our border. And I didn't know that at that point. So anyway, she said, come upstairs. And so we go up the stairs of this house with no walls, hole on the top floor. And we sit down. The little girl comes and sits on my lap, and the mom proceeds to tell me she's going down to Bangkok at 4:00. We were there at lunch, so it was 1:00. I said, she's going down to Bangkok at 4:00. And I said, no, why? You don't send her. It's dangerous. And the mom said, no money. And so I'm talking to her in Thai, and I said, no, you can't send her down there. We'll do everything, whatever. We can put her in school. We can help your family with rice. We tried to prevent so that we don't have to rescue.
Yeah.
And so we tried every single option that we can think of. And at that moment, she said no. And I realized the mom just wanted money. And she said the traffickers had already put a deposit. Like she'd already received money for her daughter for 500 baht, which is $18. And she said, if I don't, they'll kill me. If I can't just not give her, they'll kill me because I've already received the deposit for my daughter. And so we're just going back and forth, and everyone's coming around saying, I want this out of the deal. I want a cell phone out of the deal. The aunt's coming saying, I brought you here. Everyone's just saying what they want this little girl for. And she's sitting at my lap, and she looks up at me. She says, teacher, let me go with you. Teacher, please don't let me go. Teacher, let me go with you, in Thai. And so when that happened, at that point, I looked down, and I knew the only option was to tell the mom, what if I buy her back? I knew there was no other way. And we don't condone going around and buying children, because then you create a supply and demand, and people think that's the right way to go. But in this case, I knew that girl, there was no other way out. And so I did the only thing I could do at that moment. And so we did that. I said, why don't I buy her back, from the traffickers? And so she said, okay, but I accrued debt on that money. And so I need another 300 baht, which came out at the end, the price came out to $24 for this 8-year-old girl.
Wow. So
after the negotiation, after the screaming and yelling, after everyone there, we come down the stairs. I get her in my truck. I know nothing about this little girl. She's 8 years old. Know nothing about her. No ID, nothing on her. We start pulling away, and right at that time, the traffickers pulled up.
Wow.
And we rescued this little girl just in time. Just in time.
Isn't that amazing? My goodness. That just sends chills roll around my body, really. And, just as Lana was talking, the beautiful thing about this is we've actually got a video that actually shows some of these things, not necessarily the rescue, but just Lana talking about it a little bit more in depth. So have a look at this.
We had a tip-off that these boys were going to be sold. What had happened was when we were negotiating for their niece in the slum area, she was sitting on my lap. Everybody was there, and they were screaming, saying, I want a cell phone out of the deal. I want this out of the deal. I want this. And what happened was when we got the 8-year-old girl for $24, I told the mom, if you ever want to talk to her, I'll put her on speakerphone, and here's my cell number. And so I gave him my cell number. Well, what happened was when I gave my cell number out loud, this boy memorized my cell phone. He walked around the house saying it over and over and over. And so he would call me every week and say, teacher, can you take me? Teacher, can you take me? I want to study. I want to go. Teacher, they're going to send me to Bangkok. Can you take me? Can you take me? At that point, we only had a girls' safe home. I had nowhere to put him. I had nowhere to take him. And so I said, just wait. We'll get you home. Just wait. And then the call stopped coming.
My mother told me about Bangkok, and I wanted to see stuff there. But I didn't know that they were going to blindfold me.
My mom sold my brother and me to traffickers. At that time I was 11 and my brother was 6. She sold us to the traffickers, and they took us to Bangkok to sell fruit and flowers. When we first went there, the driver said, if any police ask you where you're going and why you're going there, say I'm going to Bangkok to see my mom. There was one place that the police caught my brother and me, but a monk came and said, these kids are mine, so let them go. When I reached their house, they took the blindfold off me and I saw 2 kids, one boy and one girl. We all had to sleep in the same room, and they both had to sell fruit and flowers like me. When I was there, they beat all of us. They tied the girl and beat her a lot. The day that they beat the girl, she couldn't sell up to their quota. So when we came back together, we all sat in a circle, and they tied up the girl. They tied her hands above her head and beat her. They told me you have to sell up to 1,000 baht a day. But some days I couldn't do it. Sometimes I only made 500 to 600 baht a day.
If we could not reach our goal, they beat us. They would twist my skin and my stomach.
They used tools made of steel and hit me. My brother is younger and he doesn't know how to sell yet. They would beat my brother in front of me, and I couldn't stand to watch it. I said, my brother doesn't know how to sell things yet. Why do you beat him like this? So I told them, don't beat him. If you want to beat someone, beat me.
I didn't cry. I didn't cry when they beat me. But I cried when I got back to the home. I am scared they're going to beat me again. My heart would break when I saw the knife.
One night I got a phone call. One of the boys was on the other end saying, they're beating me, they're beating me. He was crying and just hysterical on the side. I said, who's beating you? And he said, the traffickers, they're beating me. And I said, where are you? And he said, Bangkok, I'm in Bangkok. I said, where in Bangkok? He said, I don't know. They blindfolded me coming in and blindfolded me going out. I don't know where I am.
At that time I was scared of them. But I know if I escape and someone helps me, the other kids in the house would have a hard time. They would be beaten a lot.
I said, I'll be on the first plane in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. Meet me at this prominent bus station in Bangkok. And I said, whatever you got to do, get there. And he said, well, call my mom. Can you call my mom? I want to talk to my mom. So I got the phone on conference call, and there's screaming going on. He was crying. And I told the aunt and the mom, I'm going to meet him at such and such place. And little did I know, they were the connection for the traffickers. They were the ones that sold him in the first place. So right when we hung up, they called the traffickers and they told them where the boys were going to go. Traffickers went in, picked up the boys and brought them back, captured the boys and brought them back. I didn't know all of this, and so we got all our team ready. First thing, 7 o'clock in the morning, we were on the first flight out to Bangkok. I get over to that place, the meeting place. I told them we were combing the area, combing the bus station, and nobody saw these kids, and just going everywhere that we would know that these kids would be. After hours and hours of searching, we got in this taxi, And because he was taking us from place to place, he started talking. He said, "What are you doing? What are you looking for?" And I just felt like God say, "Tell him." So I started talking to the taxi and telling him what was going on, what we're doing. And he said, "I used to work for a special police unit, and if you give me the number of the payphone that the kids called you from, I can track it down." And we tracked down the exact location, and so we did a stakeout that night. We were going around from brothel to the bars. Just we know that that's where they have to sell the flowers. We waited all night till about 1 a.m, and those kids never came. We go back to the hotel. We're exhausted. We all just get to bed. 3 hours later, 4 o'clock in the morning, my phone rings, and it's the boys again. They said, we ran away. I said, "Do you know where a 7-Eleven is?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Run into that 7-Eleven. Tell them what's going on. I'll be there."
And there we are, another one of the rescue missions that Lana has been involved in. And it's credible just to see what's taken place. I mean, from what you told us just before we went to that video, and certainly watching it on there, again, it just brings it home.
Yeah.
And how many of these do you think you've done to date? I know you can't give an exact number, approximately.
I mean, and every case is different too.
Yeah.
You know, like my right hand, she was negotiating with Mama Sans, and you know, so every case is different.
Sure.
I mean, we have 117 rescued children in our homes.
Wow.
Rescued and orphaned. But then we also have prevention projects daily going on our border. So we're going into the highways, the byways. We're going to all the pools. So there's a lot of prevention going on as well. So every case is completely different.
I understand that. I understand that. And how helpful are the authorities when you come, you know, when you've rescued or trying to rescue the children or prevent it, shall I say, as well?
We have to work very wisely, and we have to fly very stealthily. There's a lot of corruption on our border, and so actually most of our brothels are owned by police and on the border. Yeah, so we have to be very careful. So so enforcement. We're right now we're a part of a child protection task force, and we're trying to get an inroad with the border control and immigration, all that. So you guys could be praying for us for that. That's a huge thing we're working on right now. And actually, we are in process. We're in negotiations with the government right now to be an actual government safe home. So what that means is, I mean, we're still we have still jurisdiction in our own safe homes, but the government, after they rescue children or after there's rescue cases, they will send these rescue children to us. We're recognized by the government. And right now, the main lady on our border actually we're in very close contact with her, and we're at the last of our paperwork and our agreement to become an actual government recognized rescue home, which gives us some more protection. So until that it's a very fine line we have to walk in when you're working in these lesser developed countries with governments that don't know their laws or where their laws are not enforced.
Wow.
We have to really be very careful and be very wise. And so we need prayer in that area.
and that's what Church Without Walls is about.
We work with them as much as we can.
Okay.
As much as we can.
I understand. Okay. And what about the children? We've seen the boys. We've heard about the little girl. What happens when you've rescued them?
So obviously with these children, there's a lot of trauma. And I mean, to see a mom negotiate for your own mother, negotiate for your life and think that you are worth $24 or to see a baby, like for a mom to just give a baby, you know, and walk away. I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of healing that needs to take place. Some of the kids in these videos, when I got them at 9 months, they were even addicted to drugs because their mom was the #1 meth dealer on that border.
Wow.
And so she didn't have her baby stop crying. We don't know if she the methamphetamines came through her breast milk or if she gave the baby drugs to stop crying. But I had a 9-month-old addicted baby in there, and I mean each case somewhere on the market. They're just horrific stories. So in this, we really focus on healing these children, and in that we do family-style safe homes, which actually has never been done in Thailand, in our country, and so in the country that I'm at. And in this we put them in family units, and we have a mother and a father caregiver, and so we do that in order so that they can see a mother not sell them, a
Right.
father who doesn't molest them or abuse them or beat them, a stepfather who doesn't sneak into their room at night. These kids need to see and be able to be touched by a male adult figure again and not cringe and not be
Right.
scared. You know, I had one of my little girls, when we got her, she was 5 or 6 years old, and when I went to put her on my hip, she would lock her legs.
Wow.
And she wouldn't even let me hold her. We were the ones that rescued her. And she wouldn't even trust me. And she knew that I got her from the bad guys. And so from that, you know, there has been major abuse cases. So in our safe homes, we really focus on healing, and we really focus on family units. And it's more expensive, but it is a way where a child gets a normal childhood again, that
Sure.
they're not forced to beg, they're not forced to work, they're not forced to perform different sexual acts, but they can be loved. They're free to be a kid. They're free to play. They're free to be protected by parent figures. And so that's how we do it in family-style safe homes.
Okay, wow, that's amazing, and I'm so glad you've got that. And now, Lana, we've talked about so much, but if you look into that camera, what would you want the people that are watching today to do?
You know, sometimes you look at this worldwide problem, and you could get overwhelmed and say, what can I do? I'm just a house mother. Or what can I do? I just, work in a marketplace. And you just think, I can't go halfway around the world and rescue children. But I always say, there's always something you can do. You have the answer on the inside of you. His name is Jesus. And with Jesus, he'll give us a solution for these world problems. And I want to say, what is in your hand? You might have influence. You might have time. You might be able to pray. You might be able to give. You know, what is in your hand to fight and to free the oppressed in our generation? This is our generation. This is our fight. This is our world that we are called to bring the answer, to bring Jesus to. And so I just ask you today, what is in your hand to be a part of this? And with us all bringing it all together, we can fight, we can stop, we can fight for those who can't fight for themselves. We could speak up, we can defend for these children. There is always something we can do.
Amazing. And for real, it really is something that we can do. Lana, I just want to say thank you. With everything, there's always a time limit, and unfortunately we're running out of time. But thank you so much for coming to share your vision and everything that you're doing. And God bless you with what you're doing. May He just give you strength and just continue to direct you and just give you the resources that you need and require for this to carry on. Viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. Do have a look at the website. It has been up on the screen a few times now, and just check out what Lana and the team are doing. I'm just going to leave you with some good news, though, with everything that's happened, all the victories that the Lord has just led Lana and her team to win. And I'm going to say goodbye, and God bless you. But do stay and have a look at what God has done for these children.